Well, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you're from, and thanks for joining us today. My name is Tom Robbins. I'm with Kentico, and joining me is James Tate, who's also with Kentico. And I want to welcome everyone to our session today on introducing the Kentico Enterprise Marketing Solution, or EMS. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to James. James?
Thanks very much, Tom, and good afternoon, everybody. So we're going to go through and have a look at, first of all, a quick introduction and update to Kentico, and then have a look at the Enterprise Marketing Solution, and then I'll hand back over to Tom in about 10 minutes or so, and we'll go through the Enterprise Marketing Solution in a lot more depth. So who is Kentico? Well, for those of you who've worked with us for some time, you'll know that we're based out of the Czech Republic. Perhaps the first office I've ever been to where dogs are welcome. There's several in there, and it's a very nice working atmosphere. In the top right-hand corner here, you can see the team. There's about 70 or so in the office, and they're here planting trees. So there's a 7-day bug fixing policy, and every year the developers get to plant trees. So Kentico is made up of various different packages. You have the e-commerce, collaborative, social side of things, and the online marketing. And really, we have a different offering for many different environments that our customers require. We've built up a reputation for good performance and good support over 7 years now, and have over 7,000 websites around the world that are running on the Kentico platform. So here are some more. We'll pick out a couple. So, for example, Novartis, Microsoft, Samsung, some household names really. And you can see a lot more of our examples of customers by industry if you go to kentico.com and choose the different verticals. Since version 6, which was released in October, we've now got 2 product lines. The standard Kentico version 6, which has the different functions available for e-commerce or document management or social media. And then we have the Enterprise Marketing Solution, which includes all of those standard CMS features and extends that into a marketing customer relationship management, providing sales leads to the sales CRM and the Salesforce. Those leads can be scored and prioritized appropriately. It's a campaign management tool where you can manage your overall costs for campaigns, as well as the activities, the click-throughs of the campaign itself. So we're going to be going into a lot more detail on that today. The recent Gartner update, Gartner Magic Quadrant, now has a mention of Kentico, and here's a quote from the Gartner latest report that many enterprises are looking to change out their content management offerings because they're not delivering what they need anymore. So at a high level, what is the Kentico Enterprise Marketing Solution? So we've touched on campaigns. This is where you can track activity on the website based on a campaign. You can manage conversions, so that could be someone filling in a poll on the site. It could be someone filling in a form. There's integrated email marketing and contact management, which where the contacts can be associated together into accounts, and we'll have a look at that in the demo. There's A/B testing and multivariate testing, so whether you want to try a new version of a particular landing page and see what results you get in terms of maybe higher conversions, higher click-throughs. If you If you're pleased with those results, you can then switch to that particular variant that you've picked. Multivariate testing allows you to try more variations on the theme on a particular page, and you can build out programs so that you can really understand what drives the results on your website. I've touched on lead scoring briefly already. This allows you to add a score for each page that someone looks at on the website, and then let's say you give them 5 points for this page and 10 points for that page and 10 points for filling in a form. By the time they've got to 50 points, you can flag that particular contact and make sure that that gets fed through into the sales customer relationship management system. Once you've got some information off the visitors to the website, you can then start to personalize to them. So for example, if someone has filled in a form and ticked a particular box showing an interest in a particular product, you can then drive more information and more promotions and future offers when that person comes back to the website. Should always have a time period associated with that, just in case they were only interested at a particular time. But you can certainly personalize to either a particular market, so it could be partners or customers, or it could be suppliers that you're looking to personalize content towards. And then finally, we have the analytics within the system, which enable you to see what's going on at an individual level. If you imagine you might have 100 people coming to your website in a particular period of time, let's call it a day, of those 100, maybe only 20 will be known to you. The other 80 are probably just going to be people that you're not sure who they are, but perhaps in the following week, if one of those 80 does fill in a form, we can map those fields, the first name, the surname, the contact numbers. We can map all of those fields on the form to our internal CRM, and then when the marketing CRM picks up that particular user, maybe they've got a certain score from the lead scoring, we can hand that lead over to the sales CRM, your existing CRM in the enterprise, and make sure that they're followed up. So that's a high-level view of the EMS. If you're already using Kentico CMS, here are a few reasons to consider upgrading. So it's to make the website more successful, increase the return on investment, and give a better experience to users. You can certainly gather a lot more information about the traffic on the website, get a good understanding of the results of campaigns. So if you send out 10,000 emails, you can see that these 137 people clicked on this particular link. You can increase your return on investment for your campaigns. You can make sure that your sales team get higher quality leads that are better targeted towards the website. And I can assure you that if a salesperson knows that one of their key contacts is looking at a lot of information about a particular product on a website, and they're able to get that lead at the right time, it can make for a very interesting conversation. And then finally, to show results, for any marketing initiatives that you have. The early adopters program that we're running has been running since October, and it closes at the end of 2011. And essentially, normally within Kentico, when you're upgrading from one product to another, you just pay the difference. And with our early adopters program, you're able to pay half of the difference for a purchase before the end of the year. So if any of you would like a quotation, please just drop us an email. So I think that's the end of what I wanted to talk through. There will be a chance for questions and answers periodically through the through the seminar. There's also in the corner, you've probably spotted the ability to ask a question. Make sure you've picked whether you want to send it to everybody or to the presenters, and Tom will probably give further advice on that. I will just change over back to Tom. There you go. Thanks very much, Tom.
All right. Thanks, James. Let me go ahead and show my screen and bring up a quick slide here. All right. So thanks, James, and I appreciate everyone joining us today. Everyone should be seeing a slide I have around called the Industry Imperative, which is really just following up on what James was talking about. For those people who have been dealing with the web, whether it's as an online marketer or as a web developer or web agency, you've seen a huge change in the industry in the last several years. Marketing or interactive marketing is just fantastic in the amount of choices and offers that it's really started to provide companies back to their customers. And it can include anything from microsites to videos to online newsletter. I mean, the channels just kind of keep growing. At the end of the day, what companies really want to start thinking about is the idea of how we can deepen our relationships with our customers. So we've moved beyond just simple, I'm going to sell you a product and you're going to buy that product, to really looking at further engaging our customers and providing better ways for us to work with our customers. The problem is, from a company's perspective, there's so many choices, you really have to start thinking about which ones make sense for your company. So I'm sure everyone really tries to think about this idea of customer-centered marketing, which is the idea of putting the customer at the center, and how do we communicate best with our customers, and in a way that makes sense. And I often think about it in terms of the right place at the right time. So when we started looking at that, we really started thinking that we needed to evolve how CMS works. Kentico, as James has said, has been around for about 7 years. We've got a very rich CMS environment that provides a ton of features and a ton of ways to engage with your customers. So it provides a lot of kind of the core infrastructure around page creation, being able to manage your content, being able to send newsletters. I mean, kind of the list goes on and on and on. But at the end of the day, it didn't have that overarching layer that allowed you to engage with your customers in this interactive fashion and then be able to measure it. So as marketers, we really have to think about that measurement angle. So with the release of Kentico 6, we introduced the Enterprise Marketing Solution, or EMS. And we really looked at it as a way to gain better customer insights. So this includes the idea of being able to measure. When you're creating a marketing plan, how successful are you? The next step really is, as you're engaging, how do you think about leads? So as James said, when I come to your website, how do I think about looking at that traffic and making sure that that traffic becomes usable for our sales folks? And then at the end of the day, it's about optimizing user experience. So this is the idea that even though we have a marketing strategy, we want to make sure that that marketing strategy is continually optimized, and being able to engage our customers as part of that optimization, and making sure that our customers feel like they're part of it and they're getting the best possible experience. And then obviously about managing our campaigns and conversions, which we'll look at in a minute. Within Kentico EMS, we really built it as a customer-centric marketing tool. And if you think about that, what we've done is we've taken our Kentico CMS 6 Ultimate Edition and we added a set of marketing tools that sat on top of that. And the marketing tool allows you to go multi-channel because you're leveraging our existing infrastructure around mobile. We've introduced some offline capabilities that allow you to forward leads, taking advantage of our normal newsletter environment that's gone ahead. and added new features. Let's go ahead and flip out of this and actually take a look at Kentico CMS, Kentico EMS. So for those of you who are familiar with Kentico's CMS, you're familiar with our CMS desk interface. And those of you that aren't, CMS desk is the primary way that I, as a content editor, work with content. And you'll notice that it's got a set of tabs that run across the top. And the tabs allow me to do kind of any number of things. So for example, our content tab allows me to manage our existing content, and I can add new pages, edit content, kind of do whatever. My desk is a personalized interface, tools, administration, or e-commerce, and we'll take a look at these. The big one for the Enterprise Marketing Solution is our online marketing tab. And this is a new feature, and really what we've tried to do is provide a work surface that 99.9% of everything that an online marketer would do is gained within this interface. And it gives them capability to pretty much everything that we're going to be looking at today. Kind of the first thing to really think about is this idea of a dashboard. So as an online marketer, I'm constantly looking at information. I'm constantly looking to tweak my environment to get more data out of it so that I can figure out which way I might want to take my environment. We've introduced this idea of dashboarding. Dashboarding allows you to customize your own interface. So as you can see within CMS Desk, and this is available through the entire system, the concept of a dashboard allows me to centralize tools onto a single interface so that I don't have to kind of click into different environments or different menu items. The dashboard itself is completely customizable. So I'm logged in as a user here, and if you think about the dashboard in a couple of ways, one is they're built on widgets. So Kentico has always strongly leveraged this idea of web parts to show information. And a web part is available on our external site as a way for users to go ahead and look at information within the system. In version 5, we introduced this idea of a widget. A widget really is a web part with additional properties that allows you to customize on the live site. So this allows me to take an editable region, recognize you as a content editor, and allow you directly on the live site to add your own information or to create your own pages by adding in these widgets. Within 6.0, we introduced the concept of dashboard widgets, which is really this idea that I can add dashboards directly into my management interface, and then on top of that, go ahead and add these directly into things like CMS Desk or Site Manager. So as an interface, what's nice about it is you can see is I have the ability to change it around. So as you see, I can go ahead and I can move it around, if I want to customize the look and feel. I can also go ahead and add widgets. So Kentico CMS ships with about 200 different web parts, and web parts themselves can automatically become widgets just by setting a few properties. And you have to think about that as an easier way for people to convert their existing infrastructures and provide better usability. Widgets, as I said, are just additional property, and you can see we ship with well over 200 of these web parts that have been converted into widgets, and they kind of cover the range of everything that you could possibly do. So for example, things like layout widgets that you see here really allow the user to create simple layouts, so things like tabs or collapsible panes, without having to write JavaScript or really having to understand the main infrastructure pieces. As an online marketer, a lot of these widgets that I'm going to be using are in the web analytics, which includes things like the analytics chart viewer and the table viewer. And really all these are web parts that become available. So if you go ahead and you select one of these and then you add it into your work surface, you'll see that it gives you access to the data that's there. As someone who's using a widget, I have the capability of modifying these widgets. So I have kind of full control over what different areas I want to look at. So for example, if I wanted to look at specific reports, or I wanted to add in other reports, I can go ahead and do that. So as you can see here, you kind of have full control over what things go on your dashboard, as well as kind of the look and the feel of how they control. The nice part from an administration or even a user perspective is the idea that once I've gone ahead and I've added in a bunch of different widgets or modified different widgets, I may run into a problem, and that problem can be, well, I didn't want to add this, or I can't get it. This allows us to reset to default. So basically what that does is it looks at what happens or what the default layout is that the system administrator set up, and then goes ahead and resets it. So it's kind of it's a nice feature, and it gives a ton of control to the user, which is really what EMS is about. It's about kind of building out that infrastructure and enabling that online marketer. If we hop over to Site Manager, we can take a look at a couple of the areas behind, and typically online marketers may not always have access to this information. But I do want to show it, I think, is an important piece of understanding what's going on. So, for example, if we click on widgets, we can take a look at the idea of how widgets work on the background. And we're going to we'll give everyone a chance to catch up here. While this is catching up, as James said earlier, if you have any questions, please feel free to send them over. We'll try to answer them at various points during our presentation, as well as answer them verbally as well. Okay, so now that we can take a look at what's going on within widgets, if we were to open up one of our widgets and we were to select our security tab here, you'll notice that we have a set of properties that are available. What makes a widget actually show up within our dashboard is this idea of dashboard zones. So when I select this option becomes available, this option makes a widget become available within a dashboard. So as you can see, it kind of gives you the capability to start with this idea of a web part and then kind of use it across the entire system. So for things like online marketers, as well as for your live users. And it's a consistency and interface that I think is really important in making people more productive quickly, because you don't want to have to understand a lot of different models. The other thing that I want to point out here is if we hop over to our page templates, within our page templates, if we were to go ahead, and you'll notice that we have a set of dashboard pages here, the online marketing dashboard that we looked at is a page template. And what's really nice is that we've introduced this idea of a design mode layout within dashboards. So you're basically creating a page, tying it into a location, and then you have a visual designer that you can then go ahead and place web parts. So you'll notice when I started that page up, that page had a look and feel, which is basically what you're looking at here. I customized it to my own uses, and then when I clicked reset to default, it went ahead and looked at this page template and then reset it based on that. So as a system administrator, I can define that look and feel visually. I don't actually have to write code, which once again is about productivity. So as you create pages, this visual designer is available over in CMS Desk. And then CMS Desk, we've taken it and included into Site Manager as a way of creating consistency across our platform. So with that, I'm going to head back over to our CMS Desk, and I'm going to go ahead and click on our Online Marketing tab again. I see that we have a few questions here. One question, and I'm going to try to answer these as we go along. So if you ask a question, James and I will try to get to it. It might not be right away. So one of the questions that I was asked is, can the CRM elements of EMS link with other external ODBC SQL databases we're already running? The answer is yes, and we'll cover that a little bit later, and there's a couple of ways that that can be done. Once again, Kentico is built as an ASP.NET application sitting in SQL, and we have a couple of ways of doing that. Obviously, we can just do direct SQL integration. We are releasing an integration engine where we're going to be providing direct integration for you can provide direct integration. You can provide direct integration for either Dynamics or Salesforce. And we're going to be releasing that, I believe it's in like the February time frame. So this will allow you to go ahead and do direct integration right within your Kentico CMS environment. So that's another approach. And then there's a couple of other approaches. There's a REST interface that's available for you to move data. So the short answer, and sorry for being a little long-winded, is yes, there's many different ways to do integration. All right, so let's go ahead and take a further look at EMS and kind of drive in a little bit deeper. So as I said, when we think about EMS, we really think about it in terms of this idea of customer-centric marketing. What exactly is the EMS platform? And I think that's probably an important point to really drive into and look at. As I said, Kentico EMS is really our Kentico CMS 6 product, which includes your core web content management, e-commerce, social networking, your intranet, all of those different features with a set of tools that sit on top of that. And the tools themselves include things like web analytics and reporting. So this allows you to go ahead and leverage a set of reports. And we've built this quite extensively, and we're going to look at it in a minute here, so that you can see the amount of reports and the quality of reports, which allows you to gain a tremendous amount of insight into what's going on in your environment. It also includes contact management, and I want to be careful because we look at this as a light CRM. And this includes the idea of maintaining contacts so I can collect customer information. And you might think about that as, well, I'm going to collect a squeeze page. I'm going to collect your name, your address, your phone number, kind of personal contact information. But it also includes the ability to track activities that people are doing. And activities we think about as anything that goes on within the website. Now that you've created a set of contacts, you can do different things with those contacts. And this includes grouping or segmentation that we'll look at in a few minutes, as well as this idea of lead scoring. Lead scoring is where I can take a set of contacts, apply values to them, and then be able to pull them out. And you want to think about this in terms of, if I'm going to buy something, based on what that is, I'm going to be looking for 30 days. And within that 30-day window, or 60-day window, I might actually be a hot prospect, which means I'm looking at different things on your site. I'm looking at the sales page. I might actually even have put the product I'm going to purchase in a shopping cart. So this allows us to apply a set of rules and be able to figure out what things people are doing and then score those out and then send those over to our salespeople, so that if they're putting things in their shopping cart and they're not actually completing it, or if possibly now that you've collected my personal information, I'm every day looking at the sales page. Maybe that's something that our salespeople want to go ahead and call. And then as you think about the online marketing loop, you want to think about this idea of optimization. And out of the box, Kentico includes A/B testing as well as MBT testing. And as you can see, and I talked about a little bit earlier, is this idea of integration with other modules. And this includes integration directly with Kentico CMS, as well as the use of things like our integration engine to move data into either Salesforce or Dynamics, or integration into other CRM systems that are out there. And then last is this idea of email marketing, which Kentico CMS includes, and Kentico EMS includes additional features around the idea of open email tracking, balanced link tracking. So there's a lot of different areas within that. So if we hop back in to Kentico EMS, let me pull this up here. Let's see. All right. So everyone should be seeing my dashboard. Let's actually take a look at our web analytics engine. And this is an important part, so as an online marketer, I'm going to spend a lot of time, as I build out marketing plans and I start doing execution, I want to actually see, what's going on, what people are doing within our site. So we built a pretty broad set of reports. I think we have, it's either 30 or 35 different points that we're checking, or data points that are going on within the sites. And if we take kind of a quick look, this includes countries. So as you can see, countries includes, with the geographic distribution, it includes visitors. It also includes registered users. How many people as a registered user are continually coming back to your site, which is an important piece for online marketers. Even though, I might have collected your information, if you never come back to the site, is that necessarily a good thing or a bad thing? So it is kind of important to keep track of that. The other is traffic sources. And traffic sources includes a variety of different things. Obviously, this includes referrals. Where are your traffic coming from? Whether it's sites, different links or different pages, as well as search engines. So by default, Kentico ships with your basic search engines, things like Bing and Google and and Ask. We also built our analytics engine so that it's customizable. And customizable means that I can go ahead and add in additional search engines, and this can be done within Site Manager. So if I wanted to, and I know this is an issue in, for example, I think it's China. I was speaking to a customer who said, well, they use a certain search engine which isn't currently added. Well, you can go ahead and add in that search engine and then localize that, as well as then be able to figure out excuse me, what keywords people are searching within your site or hitting your site. Content. Content gives you the capability of looking at kind of any amounts of content that you want, whether this is RSS feeds, as well as file downloads. And for those of you who are familiar with Kentico CMS, this means a file download that's tracked is actually a file that exists within your content tree. And that's kind of important to understand, that we're looking at the on-site journey of your customers. So this has to exist within your site. And then things like invalid keywords, page views, and then your typical top landing pages, top exit pages. Campaigns and conversions, I mean, as an online marketer, and we're going to look a little further at this, we provide tons of reports around your campaign as well as, execution of that campaign. And it's important to think about campaigns as kind of a broad swath that can cover many pages or your entire site or specific sections of your site. And then conversions are the activities that occur underneath that. So while it's important to drive people to your campaigns, you want them to actually participate in that campaign. So that includes hitting those campaign pages, which gives you performance around your actual marketing strategy, or are we driving a set number of people to those sets of pages? The next step is, are they actually doing anything when they hit our site? Are they looking at the information? Are they registering for the site? Are they participating in a poll? And these things become conversions. Also, we talk about this idea of browser capabilities. I'm sure everyone's seen a lot of stuff going on within Adobe around Flash. Out of the box, we provide not only browser types, but when you leverage our analytics browser web part, you can see things like Flash support, Java support, operating system, screen color, and screen resolution. So these reports actually will give you fuller detail around what your audience is coming to your site and what kind of information or what kind of support they have. And then also optimization. So optimization includes things like A/B testing and MBT testing that we'll talk about more. I just want to spend a minute talking about this idea of data management. So when you first install Kentico EMS, obviously we install with a fairly blank database, and there's actually no data that's there. As a testing tool, we provide the ability to generate sample analytics data. And as you can see, here's kind of the list of statistical points that we look at. And you can generate this data, which is a lot of what I'm doing here, because I'm running obviously on my test environment. And this gives me the capability of kind of seeing what kind of data is available, as well as looking at the existing reports. For those of you who may be familiar with Kentico CMS and are looking at EMS, it's really super important that you think about this as a testing-only activity. Obviously, if you do this on your production site, this is going to generate analytics data within your SQL database, which obviously you don't want to do. And then, of course, we allow you to go ahead and delete analytics data. And this can be done in either production or test, and it's going to kind of generate or delete a set of data, and you have the ability to delete kind of a pretty broad swath, whether you want to do all or any of the 30 or 35 different data points. So as you can see, the web analytics engine is pretty broad in a lot of the capabilities that it provides. One of the things I think that's really kind of super important to think about is, while the analytics engine in online marketing provides a set of broad reports which we looked at, we've also gone ahead and integrated this into the page-based environment. So this allows you to not have to go into the reports and then kind of run queries to pull out specific pages. If you go into the content tree that you see here, and then within the content tree you select analytics, you'll notice that you have a set of analytics reports that's available right on the page, and that's actually about that page. And this includes content and traffic sources for that page. So as you can see here, I've gone ahead and generated a set of sample data, and the sample data just from a size and performance, only generates on our home page. But you can see that I've got a set of content, which includes things like page views, time on page, landing page, exit page for the home page, as well as the traffic sources. So what kind of traffic sources am I getting? Direct search engines, referring site, and referring local pages. So this is available not only in the online marketing, but for each page. So as an online marketer, this actually allows me to go ahead and and look at what's going on within that specific page without actually having to run any additional reports. From a reporting perspective, whether you're on the page or in the analytics engine, there's a couple of kind of pieces that I think are important to think about. One is, if you look in kind of the top left here, we have the ability to either save, and this will save it off into the tools reporting engine, which allows you to save a snapshot of a specific report at a specific time. So if you wanted to go back and look at it, you can actually save it within CMS Desk. Yes, within CMS Desk, excuse me, as well as being able to print it or delete it. We also have the capability through this area here to kind of drill in. So if I wanted to look at kind of an hour-based reporting, I can do that. If I wanted to look at a day, a month, or a year, I can kind of drill that in and see that on our tabular reports, so I can see exactly what's going on within there. We also have the capability of specifying our time frame. So if you look over here, it's a pretty standard selector for Kentico, but it allows us to kind of make the decision that I want to look at our reports, from October 10th to November 10th or whatever time frame I need, down to a specific hour. And this becomes important, as you're running campaigns or you're running special sales. I know, people are really starting to think about the holidays, and that's kind of an important thing. As you start thinking about, how you're thinking about your reports and your sites, because people actually want to see that data right away. And then what I actually like is, if any report, you basically right-click, you can export to Excel or CSV or XML. And obviously exporting to Excel, Excel is probably the world's biggest report writer. So it allows me to take this data and export it right into Excel. And then from within Excel, I can do kind of any number of things to look at that data. And that's consistent as you look across anywhere that we use report. So it kind of gives you the capability of being able to create consistency across your environment, and being able to kind of create a consistent way of getting at your reporting data. So that's kind of a quick overview around the analytics reporting engine. And analytics reporting is really a set of jobs that run. And there's a couple of ways of configuring those so that you can leverage kind of the best performance that you can get on your environment. And that's kind of an important thing to keep in mind. So let's go ahead, and I see we've got a few folks that have been very interested in asking questions. So a couple of questions that have come in, and I want to continue moving along, so I'll try to get to as many as I can. So regarding the analytics reporting, is it possible to segment traffic by source, for example, paid and organic? So the short answer is yes. I think the longer answer is I'd probably try to have to understand it a little bit more, and there's a couple of approaches to that. One is you could run that through the analytics engine, which obviously gives you the ability, if you know your sources, so anything that isn't coming off of paid is automatically organic, and then kind of compiling those reports. So that would be things like, that aren't search keywords. So you could actually look at it that way. You could also think about it in terms of campaigns. So if you created a set of campaigns that you were interested in tracking and you call that paid, anything else would be organic. So I think there's a couple of approaches to answer that question. All right. So let's continue on. For those of you that have asked questions, I will do my best to get back to them, but there's just a lot of information I want to cover here. All right, so let's think about, if you remember, we looked at kind of our set of features, and we think about the online marketing loop. And you think about this in a couple of ways. One is, you're going to go ahead and start running a set of campaigns, and then you're going to do things like optimize and generate leads, and then do lead scoring, and then look at web analytics. So there's an entire kind of online marketing loop that Kentico EMS actually helps solve. And let's take a look at what that's about, and I think that's an important piece for everyone to understand. So from a campaign perspective, Kentico EMS supports two main campaign mechanisms. The first is this idea of newsletters. And newsletters are a feature that's been in Kentico for quite a while, but we've gone ahead and added some additional features. And those are really the ones that I want to focus on. And as we think about it, we can think about it kind of a couple of different ways. Newsletters, as you can see on the online marketing tab, includes, for those of you that have used Kentico EMS or Kentico CMS before, we've basically taken the tools newsletter and we've moved it into the online marketing tab. And it's still available on the tools because we want to try to make it easier for online marketers and not have to go to different menus. So within newsletters here, you'll notice that there's a couple of different areas. One is we have our main newsletter tab, and Kentico supports two models for newsletters. The first is what we call a template-based newsletter, and this is basically where a designer goes ahead and creates a specific template, and then that template is filled in by an editor, and then the editor goes ahead and sends it out. So it's a pretty standard type of newsletter. We also support dynamic newsletters, and dynamic newsletters basically allow you to go ahead and set a source page. So, for example, you might want to do, Kentico, http kentico.com or yoursite.com. And then every so often, it goes ahead and allows, collects that data off of that page, whether it's on your site or somewhere else, and then creates a newsletter around that. So it's a way of creating more of a dynamic newsletter. So some areas that I've seen dynamic used is for sales campaigns. So, we have a special page up, and we're going to update it daily, and then users can subscribe to the newsletter, and then they get, the deal of the day or kind of any number of things that are there. So we have kind of the capability of being able to kind of see those different pieces and then set up how often that newsletter goes. We also can see subscribers. So subscribers are basically the people that subscribe, and there's a couple of ways that we can get subscribers. simply I can go ahead and subscribe them. So if I purchase a list, or I can import it, or if I just am talking to a user, I can enter it. Where the real power comes is if I go ahead and I sign out here. There we go. And once I provide my information, I can go ahead and do things like log in as a user here. Let's log in as Andy. All right, I'll give my machine here and the audience view a chance to catch up. Here we go. All right. So as you can see, I've logged in as Andy, which is just a generic user that ships with the account. You'll see that I have my kind of personal settings that are here. I can manage my password. I can select notifications. What's important for subscriptions is that it gives me the ability to manage my own subscriptions. So as an online marketer, this gives me the capability of adding new newsletters. So as I said earlier, if we think about this idea of a sale page, within that sale page, I might want to market to that user and say, hey, there's a new newsletter. And they can come in and they can select Add Newsletter. And then within the Add Newsletter, they can select, for example, the corporate newsletter. And then as you can see, they can go ahead and subscribe themselves. So it's kind of a nice feature that allows users to kind of manage their subscriptions. So if we log off as Andy and then we sign back into CMS Desk here, and we select our online marketing tab, and we go back into newsletters. So you'll notice that now that Andy has subscribed, he actually appears as a subscriber underneath here, which is kind of a nice feature. So not only can you have users that have given you their information, but we also provide web parts for newsletter subscriptions that you can kind of place on your site, so you don't actually have to provide your own information. And you can actually see this on our DevNet page. We have a subscription for the developer newsletter, which you don't have to provide your contact information for other than your email. So I know that's a question I often get, is no, you don't actually have to provide all of your personal information. You can just provide your newsletter, your email address. And I often think about this as kind of stages of engagement. I come and I visit your site. I might subscribe to a newsletter, which basically gives me the capability of only giving you one bit of information, and then I, as an online marketer, need to continually working with you so I can get more information as well as continue to engage you. So as you can see, this actually starts tying in all the information about Andy within our system. Newsletters also include templates. So out of the box, there's a bunch of templates that are available with double opt-in activation. So this is basically the idea that if I have double opt-in selected, this is the template email that's going to get sent out. An issue template is really the thing that our designer is going to create, and that I, as an end user, am going to go ahead and be able to fill out. So as you can see, it includes a set of HTML. It also includes our body. What the big thing is that it also includes a set of macros, as you can see here. And this idea of macros is pretty powerful, as it allows you to access bunch of information dynamically. So if you think of as the newsletters are actually sent, the newsletters templates are applied against the data, and then they're gone ahead and delivered out to the SMTP queue or the third party. But these sets of macro, and in Kentico CMS 6, we've introduced what we call K-sharp, which is a pretty powerful macro language that allows you to access pretty much any information. So I can customize it at the simplest level to, your first name and last name. As you can see here, I'm providing a system attribute in an unsubscribe link that when I send out that newsletter. The other is, if we hop down here, that Kentico CMS 6 includes CSS everywhere, and this is a pretty common request that we've gotten from our customers. And you're going to see the ability to create CSS, and once again, this is a page designer's perspective. CSS not only at the web part level, but for newsletter, and this becomes important as you think about your branding attributes. So when I send out my data, or excuse me, when I send out my newsletter, I want to make sure that I have a consistent look and feel around campaign or that campaign landing page. So you see kind of CSS pretty much everywhere for the page designers that are actually out there. Another thing I want to kind of point out here is this idea of a newsletter queue. Now, obviously, I'm in a test environment, and I'm not going to be sending out large numbers of newsletters here. But the newsletter queue offers you a couple of opportunities. One is that I can send out newsletters directly to SMTP, so I can deliver it in an SMTP queue, and then have SMTP kind of queue it out. And this is really the recommended approach if you have a large number of newsletters. Or I can send it directly from my system here. And obviously, batch queuing things out to SMTP becomes a lot easier, and the newsletter queue can be managed from here. So I can, if I have specific failures, I can manage them right from here, and this allows me to either resend them or delete them, or kind of control the individual emails that go out. One of the other questions that we often get asked is, so you guys support the ability to batch out to SMTP. We don't look at the idea of delivery. For those of you who've done a lot of email newsletters, you know that the actual delivery aspects is kind of a whole industry until itself. But we have partnered with folks who are very interested in making sure that your newsletters get delivered. This is making sure that you're not blacklisted or any number. And there's a few of those available if you look at our technology site, or excuse me, technology partner site. And I'm thinking one in particular that basically has a no-code integration where instead of delivering to your SMTP server, you deliver Dyn, where you deliver to their SMTP server and they guarantee delivery. So it's kind of an important thing to think about, especially as you get a large number of newsletters and how you actually deliver those. Probably the most exciting kind of feature to talk about here is if I were to look at a new issue. Oops, let's go ahead and close this here. Let me go ahead back here. Within the newsletter, we have the ability, once we turn on online marketing, we get a set of options here. One is we can go ahead and track opened emails. So really what this does is when the email is delivered to the end user, it includes kind of one pixel picture that when I open it up, it automatically reports back that the email has been opened, as well as click links. So as the email is processed or sent out, we actually apply a link redirection on it. And you kind of think of it in terms of, I want to make sure that the user gets his email delivered first, and then once he gets it delivered, did he open it? So is it ending up in his junk mail folder or something else? And then once he opens it, what kinds of links is he clicking on? What's the most interesting things within that, so that I can kind of understand my audience a little bit better. And we provide all of those capabilities. So from a tracked opened email perspective, it is that one pixel picture that's tracked, as well as the idea of tracking links. And then when you send out that email, you have the capability of being able to track what the user is doing, and then be able to drive some reports around it to understand, what percentage of emails are getting delivered, and then what's the most interesting content. So I, as an online marketer responsible for a newsletter, can start to understand what my audience is looking for, and that's kind of an important thing to understand. All right. So at a high level, I think it's important to understand kind of the basics of email marketing and how email marketing actually works within Kentico EMS. And as you think about this idea of online marketing, kind of tracking and being able to see what your users are doing is super important, and something you really, really want to think about as you start building out those different pieces. All right, so it looks like, let's see, it looks like anyone has any questions, feel free to send them in. All right, looks like we are keeping up with the questions, and I'm going to continue on, and I want to make sure we leave time for questions as well. So email marketing is certainly one part of how you think about engaging your customers. Campaigns are obviously the second piece of this. Campaigns are a huge part of how, as a marketer, I engage with my audience. Email marketing certainly allows me to send them emails, and it's more of a one-on-one experience. But I want to bring them back to my site and then engage with them on the site. And within Kentico EMS, there's a broad selection of things around this, and this is built on this idea of campaigns. Campaigns can be created a couple of different ways. And as I said earlier, campaigns themselves aren't necessarily tied to a specific page. And the theory behind this, and I think it makes great sense, is I have a campaign, and I may want to run that campaign for a month, turn it off, and then turn on that same campaign later. We separated the idea of campaigns from specific pages, which allows us to keep campaigns around as well as keep that data and kind of build off of that. So I can go ahead and within here, within our campaigns tab, I can actually create campaigns and then go ahead and add them into the pages. But there's a couple of other ways to create campaigns that I think are important to understand. One is if we go into our home page here, give it a second, and we select our analytics, and then we select our settings, you'll notice that we also have a campaigns tab here, or campaigns button here. And this gives me the ability to set up a campaign on a specific page. And I think what's important about this is you can have campaigns running across multiple pages or on specific pages. And creating campaigns is actually pretty easy to do. So for example, within here, I can say new, and I'm on the page, so I'm going to be creating a campaign for my home page. I can then go ahead and specify, my name, my code name. Let's go ahead and save that. I can specify an open from and an open to. And the way this actually works is it allows me to run a campaign around a specific time frame. I don't have to enter the open from, and it's just a continual campaign. But what's important about this is it allows me to specify a date range, and as you can see, you can literally get right down to the second if you wanted to. And a lot of times as you think about the holiday season, you may want to run a one-day campaign, or you may want to run a one-hour campaign, and this gives you the capability of doing that. Second is EMS, as I've said earlier, isn't designed to build your marketing plan. EMS is designed to help you implement your marketing plan. So it is important to understand that you need to have a marketing plan, or you need to have some ideas behind that. And one of those is the idea of your campaign impressions. How many impressions are you expecting? And then our reporting engine hooks into this and allows you to look at, cost per impression and that kind of thing. So just as an argument's sake, I would say, well, I'm looking at, a campaign impression. I'm expecting, 10,000 campaign impressions, and I'm going to spend $200. This allows me to start kind of analyzing those different impression aspects and then figuring out exactly what pieces I want to do. And then campaign conditions. So as I said, you build a campaign and you have a URL within your campaign literature that you're driving people to. The campaign condition allows you to become even more granular. So there's a couple of approaches to this. One might be I have a campaign running on 3 different pages, but on one page I'm looking for a very specific condition. Is the user, what's their gender, did they come from a specific URL? And the campaign condition allows you to do that. The campaign condition takes advantage of this thing called K# I talk about. And one is, as a simple way, is I can just use a designer, which is basically a set of menu-driven code that allows me to specify a set of attributes, meaning I can do things like, forms equal and then specify my form. Where it becomes kind of interesting is when you take advantage of, as I said earlier, of our macro engine. And I think probably a really fantastic idea of thinking about this is that K# introduces the concept of IntelliSense within Kentico CMS. This allows me to be able to basically, as you can see here, get auto completion of my macro code, as well as being able to see kind of what particular pieces exist underneath. So if my campaign condition include things like, current user dot is female, I can specify that. So the macro condition and the idea of K# really takes macros to a whole new level. You have the ability for the developers that might be out there, or people who write, dabble in code. K# supports iteration. It also supports looping. So you can kind of do, and it really is the integration of C# with Kentico macro. So it's an extremely, extremely powerful way of building out macros within Kentico. And obviously we're going to be doing a little bit more around webinars and things around K#, so it is something for people to think about. So now that I've gone ahead and I've kind of created that campaign, I can then go ahead and when I save it, my campaign is currently running. There's also, and you're going to see, I think as you look at this track campaign, the select edit new, we try to make it as easy as possible for people to create campaigns. So one way is obviously on the online marketing tab, and then coming in here and saying select and picking picking the campaign. You can also select campaigns through domain aliases. And we'll let the machines catch up here. So if you're familiar with Kentico CMS or if you're not, the idea of a domain alias allows you to specify different names for pages. So for example, in my example here, on my live site, it's my site / home.aspx. I may want to create a new domain alias called campaign home, or I may want to create a new alias called whatever. For each of those aliases, I can go ahead and create a campaign, which is a pretty powerful way of running multiple campaigns on single pages, which allows me to leverage a lot of different feature and functionality, as well as landing paths landing paths for people that are hitting our site. So there's kind of a ton of ways that you can leverage it. I think most people who are using EMS are thinking about creating campaigns as either directly on the page or using the domain alias. And then we do have the capability through Site Manager to create a campaign object using our settings here. The big difference is, let me go ahead and flip back here. The big difference is, as you think about it, if you set up your campaign through Site Manager, it's kind of one site-wide campaign, and then everything you send out, you might want to, you're going to want to append that URL, which is certainly great if you're thinking about kind of one campaign and where do they land. Where there's a lot of power is setting it up on each of the individual pages or setting up domain aliases. And then within each of those, including those campaign URLs. So as users hit those, we can go ahead and track those campaigns. So that's kind of three different ways of setting up a campaign, and it becomes really a question of what's your marketing plan doing, and then how are you thinking about driving that marketing plan forward. So we've talked about this idea of campaigns, but campaigns are only part of the process of understanding your user. So as you create campaigns, campaigns basically are the URL that you include. You drive people to the site. Conversions are where you actually track what users are doing on the site. So now that I've entered the URL that you sent me, in any number of different ways, kind of the next step is, how am I engaging within your site, and what kinds of things am I doing? And so, as I said earlier, you think of campaigns as broad and conversions as specific things people are doing. And once again, we can create those on the Online Marketing tab. Where conversions become important is in a couple of places. So, for example, if I go back in here for settings, I can track a conversion name at a page level, and setting up a conversion is pretty easy here. EMS conversion. You basically go ahead and just enter your name and description, and you've got the conversion set up, and then you define a value. So if you think about the idea of a conversion with the campaign, my campaign will drive you to a specific page or specific set of pages, and then within those specific sets of pages, there's important things that I want you to do. So I might want you to fill out a poll. I might want you to register. Well, when you think about it that way, filling out a poll may not be as important as getting you to register, and your conversion value allows you to grade that out. So I might have a conversion value of the poll of 10, and then of registration of 50. So it's a value-based scale that allows us to kind of figure out, what people are doing, and then kind of grade how important it is that they do it. So you can have conversions at your page level, and then as you kind of get onto pages, we started providing, or we provide conversions at a lot of different levels. So let me go ahead and select our page here. So in, for example, the poll web part, and you're going to see this in the majority of web parts, you can also track conversion. And this is available in the poll web part, user registration, for those of you that are using e-commerce. The shopping cart has conversions for things like, did the user add an item to the shopping cart? Did they register in the shopping cart? Kind of all aspects of the shopping cart, you can create conversions. So conversions are pretty ubiquitous across the system, and it allows me to kind of separate this idea of campaigns, because I could also have conversions without campaigns. So as you can see, this is a pretty straightforward way of creating conversions, and I don't actually have to write any code. Once again, I could either select my conversion, or I can go ahead and create a new conversion here as well. Where conversions also become interesting for those of you that are using e-commerce, let me flip over to our e-commerce tab. Give everything a second to catch up here. In our e-commerce tab, if I select our products, and I'm going to select one of our new bundled products that are available in Kentico CMS 6. Within our products, we also have the ability to do conversions. So as you can see, kind of down towards the bottom here. So what that means is I can have conversions not only in our e-commerce shopping cart, so the user's engaged in the shopping cart, did they add it, did they delete it, did they register, but I can also have conversions right at the product. Did the user look at the product, did they engage with the product? So there's a pretty broad set of conversion areas that you can cover underneath that. And then lastly, we certainly did our best to make sure we included them in web parts, as you can see in e-commerce, on the page level. I mean, they're kind of included everywhere. But Kentico has a tremendously extensible API, so if there's a specific conversion that you're looking for, or an area you're looking for that we didn't include it, the conversion API, and there's an example of this in our developer's guide, is probably 2 or 3 lines of code, allows you to implement a conversion kind of anywhere. And the nice part that we designed into the API is that the conversion itself gets picked up by the standard web analytics. So for example, if I were to create a conversion on the online marketing tab, and then via code, I can create a conversion and access that same conversion anywhere. Or I can create it via code, and it automatically gets picked up, so it's available in other areas. So there's a tremendously extensible set of APIs that exist underneath that that allow us to leverage the different pieces that are out there. So that's kind of the overview of kind of conversions and campaigns as a way of kind of driving users to our page, and then obviously leveraging things like newsletters. What I'd like to do is, if anyone has any quick questions, certainly feel free to send them in, and we'll see if we can get you answered. All right. Well, looks like we don't have any questions. Hopefully, everyone is getting the information that they need. So let's move on a little bit. And as we kind of talked about this idea of conversions and campaigns, it really is the idea of driving people to the pages and then collecting that. When users engage with your site, what they're really doing is they're accessing activities. And activities are what we're actually tracking within here. So for example, if we select activities, you can see that this provides me a broad set of activities. Remember earlier I logged on as Andrew Jones. It tracks my IP address, my activity time, and then gives me an activity type. So what it's doing is, now that it knows that I'm Andrew Jones, and you can also do this for anonymous as well. So it is important to kind of keep in mind that it's not only for users that you know, but also anonymous users, and you can pull those out. So as you can see, you know, Andrew Jones visited our page. You know, he unsubscribed to a specific newsletter. You know, he visited my account. He visited the login page. You can kind of see all of the activities that are here, as well as you can see the broad list of activity types that are here. And it is important to keep in mind that we try to provide as many different possible scenarios as we could, you know, for activities. So that includes everything from, you know, forum posting to, you know, poll voting to page visiting. But if there's an area that we didn't include, you can also create your own custom activities. So if there's something specific your site is looking to do, you can create your own sets of custom activities and then track those custom activities through the analytics engine as a way of kind of picking that up. So activities really are, as users start hitting your site, they're generating activities. And then it's important to think about, okay, now that we have all of this data, what can we actually do with it? And this is where our light CRM, or things like contacts and lead scoring, starts to come into play. So as we think about this idea of contacts, let me flip over here a second. We'll let our machine catch up here. Looks like go to meeting is a little slow. There we go. All right. So as you can see, contacts are a way of tracking your individual users or collecting their information. So for example, Andrew Jones, who you all saw me log in at earlier, automatically got a contact record. And I can go ahead and edit that contact. And as you can see, I can either add in information, or as Andrew provides more information about himself, it automatically gets filled in. So, for example, things that I can do is I can enter notes about him. I can also look at accounts he might have, membership, his activities. So this provides more of a user-centric approach to the broad activities list. IPs that he's coming into. So contacts are basically a way of looking at the detailed information behind that individual. One of the big things as a sales organization that you always want to look at is things like the contact status. And this really is customizable. So within this, if I select configuration here, you'll notice that we have the ability to enter a contact status. So this is things like, you know, not interested or a prospective client. I can also enter a contact role. And a contact role allows me to define kind of the role within the organization. And it is important to call out that you can also add additional fields into the contacts list. So if you have custom fields you want to create, we've just simply leveraged the document type, and then you extend that document type, and then within that document type it will automatically show up on the contact screen, which is kind of a nice feature because it gives you kind of the utmost flexibility. But contact status and contact role are really just a way of segmenting out different customers, as well as being able to figure out, how you're going to, look at that. Once again, I think it is important to understand that when you roll out a product like EMS, even though these are kind of small features of status and role, you do want to think through how you speak internally. So is the contact role of CEO or CFO important, or is it decision maker employee? And as you think about contact status, how do you speak about this? So when you start generating lists or scores to your salespeople, if they look at it and they say, oh, well, I don't understand what prospective client means, that may be a problem. So once again, we included the idea of configuration for this in CMS Desk because we believe it is really a business decision that a customer will want to control. And you may want to add additional contact statuses or contact roles. And we didn't want to put that in an area like Site Manager where they couldn't get to it and they had to communicate with IT or someone else. So it kind of empowers that user. Contacts are a very granular level. And then within that, we can start tying together contacts into accounts. And obviously, things like accounts are more financial relationships, which, once again, I can start tying in, and we do support things like subsidiaries. So Company A owns Company B. So contacts are added to accounts. And you can start tying these different pieces together. And once again, we have things like account status, which you can fully customize, as you saw earlier in the configuration screen. So we can have activities, which leads to contacts, which leads to accounts, or you can start at accounts and kind of work your way down, depending on how you want to look at that sets of relationships within that organization. The big thing to kind of keep in mind is as you start building this out, you really want to start thinking about this idea of segmentation. And traditionally, what happens within segmentation is that you go off and you build, or you might interact with focus groups and figure out who your users are. And while that's great, it can be very expensive and kind of very slow. So what we've done within EMS is we provide a value-based segmentation. And a value-based segmentation allows you to look at your sets of contacts or accounts based on what they've done in your system and then create lists within that for further marketing. So a great example is I may want to create a contact group based on everyone that visited the home page, during this time frame, or everyone who's listed as a prospective client. And contact groups are kind of a way of figuring out and providing better activity or further activity, for your end user. And there's a couple of ways of doing that. Once you create your contacts, obviously you can go in and you can add contacts or accounts manually. Where kind of the power in this comes is then you start doing dynamic building. And once again, this allows me to leverage leverage K#. So I can do things like pull out current user. Well, we could do things like contact dot, and then pull out any of the contact information. Their home phone. Let's see. Some of the notes. Kind of any number of items that you may want to look at, I think, is probably the important point. And then pull those out. The system will dynamically rebuild this. So as long as the contact groups exist, you do have the capability of having them automatically updated, which really gives them a lot of power. So if you think about creating a contact group and then you're going to automatically send them an email, you can start tying contact groups into Newsletter Engine, and you get kind of that wonderfully circular online marketing loop that we talked about earlier. Let me go ahead and close that down. So contact groups are kind of super important as you think about additional marketing activity. Let's just take a quick look at scoring. We're starting to kind of run low on time here. And I have to be honest, there's so many different things I'd like to cover that I'm going to have to start figuring out what pieces we can get through. So as your salespeople are looking at this, they're going to say, wow, contact groups are great. It's a fantastic way of being able to figure out and market to people, but I'm a sales guy. I want to sell them stuff. And I need to know who my really important prospects are, in the contacts and in the accounts. And this is where scoring comes into play. So just kind of quickly here, let me go ahead and create a quick score. And scores themselves are important in the sense that it allows me to pull out and assign a statistical or numerical value. So for example, you can say when a score reaches 50. So as I said earlier, when I create a campaign and I might have a poll conversion is a value of 10, I might have the user registration is a value of 50, I can say when a user registers, go ahead and send a notification email to my salesperson, at excuse me, Tom Robbins or Thomas R at Kentico.com. And then within here, scores are built around rules, and you can have multiple rules, and rules themselves can either be attribute-based or activity. And you can combine these together, which I think is kind of really important as you start building more advanced rules. But it's important to understand attribute is based on a system attribute. Things like their email, their last name, any number of things. And if you add your own custom attributes, it will go ahead and pick this up. So as you extend the system out and you start using the system for your own personal use, you're basically adding in additional attributes to the system, and then the system allows you, to do things like, well, city equals, Seattle or London or whatever piece. So it allows you to pull out based on a set of attributes. Activity is really where it gets interesting. Activity allows you to define a number of things. So for example, I can define any number of the activities that you saw earlier. For example, a page visit. We can also do, if you're familiar with our online forms or biz forms, you can also do a form submission, and then within the form submission, you can go ahead and specify the specific form. And then you can specify a date range here. So I may not be interested in everyone that ever submitted the contact us form, but between a specific date range. And then obviously things like page and activity URL, description, context, becomes important whether you're pulling out a specific campaign or different cultures. So this gives you the ability to run not only one culture, but if you have 2 or 3 different cultures, as well as IP address. So you can see that the activity-based rules are pretty powerful in the amount of information that you can start pulling out as a way of getting towards, as well as creating these scores. And for a salesperson, this gives you the capability of really figuring out who your hot lead is or what stage of the sales cycle someone's in. Are they the old prospect or suspect? So you can really kind of define these out. And rules, as I said, gives you the ability, you can have attribute and activity or any combination of those within one specific scoring session. And then the last piece to really understand here is this idea of validity. So as I talked about earlier, people purchasing may only be interested in a specific time frame. There was an article I read a couple of months ago that talked about people who build or people who purchase cars or vehicles. It's usually, I think it's a 4-month sales cycle. So validity actually allows me to define how long those points are valid for. So if I'm either outside of that 4-month window, if I'm looking for a car, you may not want to give me any rule. You may not want to assign me any points and give me the capability of being able to, not send that to the salesperson. And you can also specify kind of more granular levels than that. So validity is kind of an important, idea to think about as you're building out rules. So that's kind of the basics of scoring. We're running a little short on time here, so what I'd like to do is if anyone has any questions, certainly feel free to go ahead and send them in, and we will go ahead and answer them when we can. Otherwise, I want to kind of move on a little bit as we've only got, it looks like about 15 minutes or so. So we've talked, if we go back into our wonderful diagram here, and let me go ahead and open this up a little bit. We talked about our idea of the online marketing. We've hit the idea of contact management, email marketing, lead scoring, campaign and conversions. The last piece I'd like to leave you on is this idea of optimizing user experience. So as you think about your campaign, you generate a marketing plan, you tie it into campaigns, whether it's a campaign or an email newsletter. You create the conversions. At the end of the day, how do you know that you're getting the best conversion? And how do you know that everyone who's coming to your site is seeing the absolute best typography or messaging that they want to do? I mean, real online marketing is about testing your pages and continually optimizing them. And the industry has two basic test approaches. The first is A/B testing, and the second is MBT, or multivariant testing. And they're very different, and I just want to take a second to make sure that I kind of point out what each is designed for, and then kind of show you how we implement it. So within Kentico EMS, A/B testing is based on pages. So page A or page B, which one of those two pages has the best messaging. So the way that would work is I'm going to create a test of my home page, and then I'm going to create a variant of my home page, and I would modify that page variant, change coloring or whatever, and change the typography, kind of any number of elements within that page. And then I'm going to run a test, and then users will come in. They will get either the A or the B page, the test page or the variant, and then we're going to track how they actually look on those pages. So when we're done running our test, we're going to end up with, well, we got more conversions on page A than page B. Multivariant testing, or MBT testing, is looking at the elements in a page. And this is, quite honestly, the idea in Kentico CMS of modifying web parts. So which web part, whether it's placed correctly on the right-hand side or the left-hand side, which web part actually gets best conversion. But if you think about this, A/B testing is page to page, so there's really only some kind of high-level elements that you're going to change. MVT testing can get pretty complex, and if you think about MVT testing, there's what we call full and partial factorial testing. So the big difference is, if you only test one element, so I might only create one modification of a web part, excuse me, you might only create one modification of a web part, that's partial, because at the end of the day, a full factorial means you're looking at all the different elements of a page. So as you can see, MVT testing gets a lot more variables and a lot more possibilities. And then the system itself will actually keep track of what's going on underneath the covers and then allow you to predict a winner based on the set of reports. And it comes down to which sets of pages or web parts or combination of web parts actually gets the best conversion. Important also to understand about optimization is this idea of statistical significance. So if you have a page that gets 1 million hits a day, or whatever, and you're going to split that into 2 pages, you really have to think about this idea of what's the statistical significance for me to make a decision around the winner. Obviously, now that I've split it into 2, 500 hits isn't going to be enough if it gets 1 million. Is it 2 million, 1 million hits per page? So statistical significance is kind of an important thing to think about. All right, so let's hop back in here and take a quick look at how this works, just so that we can get an idea of what's there. So I'm going to select my home page here. And with my home page, I'm going to select Analytics. And you'll notice underneath the Analytics tab, there's an A/B test. I'm going to create a new test here. And we're just going to give it a simple name. And a couple of things to point out. You'll notice that you have the ability to do cultures, so you can run optimization tests across multiple cultures. And you can specify the conversion. So this is where things like statistical significance come into play. I can say, for example, my target number of conversions for the test to end is 100 total, which means each of the 2 pages I'm going to create, needs to get 100 total, or any variant gets 100. And this, as I said earlier, really requires you to think about this idea of statistical significance. And then you can open a test based on your number of conversions or your test from and to, or as you see here, I can create kind of a combination of both. So this will run for 100 total, as well as run 11/23 to December 8th. So I'm kind of narrowing down that date as well. And then you can go ahead and enable the test. And now that I've created the test, I need to specify a variant. And there's a couple of ways of doing this. One is I can specify the variant directly from here. So, for example, I could specify my page. So when we think about A/B tests, we really think about keeping them on the content tree, and we specifically designed A/B testing to make it as easy as possible, so you're just using other pages on the content tree. So I could have gone off and created a page earlier that I may want to test. And that comes into how much of your page you're actually changing. And I can specify that here. I can also select my home page and then select New. And then you'll notice down the bottom of here, I create my A/B test page variant, and then within that test page variant, I can enter my document name, where I'm going to save it, as well as what test I want to assign it to. Typically, you don't want to show your A/B test in navigation because it can be confusing to have two versions of the page. And when the user hits one of these pages, they're basically given a cookie on their machine, and that cookie will always validate that they're hitting the same test variant page. And if you think about this, it would be jarring to me if I were to come to your website and then get one page, and then when I refreshed, I got another page. If I refreshed again, I got another page. So the cookie basically helps maintain the fact that users will get consistency in their page. So if you go off and you test this, it's also important to understand that it's random. That the system doesn't try to load one way or the other. It'll basically make some random determination, but once it determines it, that cookie will ensure that you're always kind of getting that same page. So now that you've created your page, you can go ahead in, and you'll notice that all this really did was take my home page and create a copy of my home page. And you can do things like modify your text that's here. Let's just out of argument's sake here. You would modify your text. This is where you would think about what your messaging is and that kind of thing. So now that you've actually created that, I'd want to go ahead and create conversions, right? So conversions basically allow me to track what the users are doing. So given the time, just to make sure you understand, we've created the page, we've modified the page, we will go ahead and create conversions, and now that that's done, we go ahead and we sign out. There's an A/B test currently running, and you can see that I was assigned kind of the standard home page. Next time someone else may come in, they may be assigned kind of the A/B test page. And that test will run until we get kind of a certain number of hits or based on that time range. All right, so as I said, A/B tests are really about pages. Where it becomes interesting, I guess, would probably be the easiest way to say it, is, I'm going to go ahead and stop this test here, is when you start bringing in multivariate testing. Multivariate testing, as I said, is really about creating modifications in web parts. So, for example, if we go into analytics here, and we create MBT test. I'm going to give it a, once again, we're going to create a new MBT test. And just for simple naming conventions here. Once again, same kind of similar setup that exists where I'm going to create my target number of conversions, and my culture, so I can open it, now to 2 weeks, or just specify my conversion, and then we hit OK. And now that I've created my test, and my test is actually running, if we go back to our Design tab here, you'll notice a couple of things. One is that I have a set of combinations here. So I can do things like specify variants of my web parts. So for example, I can say MBT variants, and I can either add a zone or a web part variant. and then within those variants, I can go ahead, just create a variant here. Let's create a variant for our content tab here. Within our variant, basically all I'm doing is I'm creating the same web part, and then within that web part, I'm setting additional properties. So you'll notice that I get kind of the same web part property screen that exists here, and I can set different properties within it. So if I wanted to change the default text, or I wanted to change different design behaviors, I can do that. So now that you've kind of created your variant, there's a couple of things to point out here. One is that you'll notice on my web part that I just created that I have a new slider that appears here. And what this allows me to do, is look at the different variants of my web part. And obviously I didn't change any real features here. But this allows me to look at kind of the variants of my web part as they exist, so I can flip back and forth. Within this, I can also add another variant, because you can think about this idea of how much you're changing within an MBT test, and you can end up with a full test can have literally hundreds or thousands of different combinations, and then how you pull those combinations together. And then obviously I can create a variant list to see the different variants and then kind of flip through. The thing to realize too is, if you didn't see this before, this automatically puts a combination selector at the top. And what this is doing is it's basically allowing me to identify different combinations and then create those combinations, because not only do I want to see kind of the web parts themselves, well, I want to see, well, what does this variant look like? But I want to create different combinations of those variants, and then this tab allows me to actually do that and then create those combinations. As my test runs, when my test is completed, I can set as results. And what this is a one-way thing. It basically says, okay, this particular page 1 set as a result, and then let's go ahead and get rid of any previous variants. Just kind of real quickly here, from an A/B and an MBT test, you have a wide set of reports, so things like conversion value, as you can see here. And the report allows me to specify not only my test, but the conversions that are there, so I can see kind of what's going on. My conversion rate, as well as my conversion source pages, as well as conversions by variant. So, and obviously there isn't a ton of data. Let's select sample A/B test here. Conversions by variant. And this will actually allow me to see which page essentially is winning based on the number of conversions. A/B testing, or excuse me, MBT testing is the same way in the sense that reports are basically going to start telling me which combination wins. And typically your conversions by combination is where you're going to want to think about kind of the winner. And then based on this winner, or based on a period of time, that's when you would go in and you would select, set as result that we saw on kind of that home page that's there. Last thing, kind of real quickly, is this idea of content personalization. So MBT testing is fantastic. It gives us the ability to go ahead and create different variations of how we think about web parts. Personalization takes that a step further and allows us to say, based on a page, I'm going to add a variant, and I'll just enter this quickly here. and then based on that variant, I'm going to set a display condition. So once again, we get into this concept of K# or our designer, and I can say, anyone who comes in who, current user dot, is male, is a new visitor, I want to show them a different version of that web part, or I may want to show them a different web part entirely. So it really gives me this capability of taking MBT and then using it in kind of a real-world environment to deliver dynamic content to my end users that are coming and hitting the site. So we've got probably about 2 minutes or so, and I want to make sure that I'm conscious of the time. Just kind of real quickly, if you have any question, please go ahead and send them in, and I'm going to make sure that we get to them. So please go ahead and send in any questions you have. And kind of in closing, I just want to spend a second on our architecture here. If you're not familiar with it, it's kind of a real quick overview of we're built on top of Microsoft.NET 3.5. We fully support Azure, and we're actually we are the only CMS who has been kind of blessed by Microsoft in their Powered By program, which means we've had our code checked to make sure that it runs in Azure. So we run not only on-premise but off-premise as well as split environments. Kentico CMS 6 introduces a ton of new features, things like full web DAV support, health monitoring. We support HTML5 as well as a new REST interface for accessing your data. So kind of tons of different features that are actually available. So with that, I'd like to ask if there are any final questions that people may have. Please go ahead and send them in. James, are you still there?
I'm still here, Tom. Thanks very much.
Excellent. Do you want to go ahead and say any final words, and we'll start to settle out. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to send them in.
Yeah, sure. So I'd just like to thank everybody for your time, and we hope you appreciated the deep dive. We did think about trying to do this in 1 hour, but as you can tell, there's a lot of content to get through. So thanks, Tom, very much for the detailed presentation. And yeah, drop us an email if you have any further questions. Thanks very much.
Thank you.